So I decided that why not? Why don't we just continue? Yesterday was Nityananda's parents' day, at least in America. Why don't we continue discussing Lord Nityananda? As we often have done, we have often continued our discussions for many days. So in that vein, we're going to discuss from a book called Nityananda Charitamrita. Jai Nitai. Some pastimes that were written by Vrindavan Das Thakur, which may also be found in other shastras. But first, we're going to have some Nityananda Kirtan, Nitai Gauranga Kirtan, just to develop a mood. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. I have to hear. Hold on. I have to make sure this sounds right. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Gauranga Nityananda. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Nitai Gauranga Jaya Nitai Gauranga Nitai Gauranga Jaya Nitai Gauranga. Oh, I'm getting confused here. Nitai Gauranga Jaya Nitai Gauranga Nitai Gauranga Jaya Nitai Gauranga Nitai Gauranga Jaya Nitai Gauranga Nitai Gauranga Jaya Gaura Hari. Gaura Hari, Gaura Hari, Gaura Hari, Gaura Hari. It's not working for me today. Nitai Gauranga Jaya, Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga Jaya Gaura Hari. Nitai Gauranga Jaya, Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga Jaya Gaura Hari. Nitai 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 Gauranga 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 Nitai Gauranga Jaya 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 Gaura Hari. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Nitai Gauranga Jai, Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga Jai, Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga Jai, Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga Jai, Nitai Gauranga. Om Premanandi, Hari Hari Om. Jai Nimai, Jai Nitai. Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashnaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitanamane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvise Sasanyavadi Paschachitasatarine. We had given class yesterday and we talked more on philosophy. And so today we're going to speak a little bit more about Lila. And I will read and explain several things, which I think you will find fascinating, amazing, and so forth. So we discussed yesterday that when Nimai was growing up and Nitai was growing up in Ekachakra every day, he and his friends would enact pastimes, and they would enact them exactly. And they would even enact pastimes that were not written in Scripture. And when he was asked, how do you know all these pastimes? He said, of course I know them. They're my pastimes. People didn't, they understood that Nitai was special, but they weren't really sure. Maybe he's an incarnation. We don't know. But just like with Krishna, everyone in Ekachakra was naturally attracted to Nimai, and he was more dear to them than their own life. Just as all the residents of Braj, for them, Krishna was more dear than their own life. In the same way, Nitai was like that. And that's, you can imagine, if he grew up in your village, what you would think. Although the interesting thing is that where there's impurity, people don't appreciate. They can't appreciate. And that's the misfortune, or say everyone's misfortune, our own misfortune, as Mahaprabhu said, Anuraga. Durdaivam ihajani Anuraga. My raga has not taken birth, so I'm Durdaivam. I'm unfortunate. I don't have an attraction. So, there is something we're going to begin with, because we talked a little bit about these childhood pastimes. Anyway, I'll review a few things we spoke about and then bring us up to where we're going to begin reading. We had discussed yesterday that, of course, as we're saying, Nitai's growing up was amazing, and everything that's typical of Krishna or Balaram, Ram, Lakshman, is typical of Gaur and Nitai. So when he was 12, Lakshmipati Tirtha came to visit and stayed at their home, the home of Hadai Pandit and his mother Padmavati. That was the mother and father of Nitai. So when he was leaving the next morning, he made a request. So naturally, they're guests, and he's a sadhu, a saint. And naturally, you give them what they ask. He said, I have a request. Yes, sure, of course. I'm going on pilgrimage, and I don't have an assistant, and I'm just going for a few days, and would you give me your son for a few days? Now, at that point, Nitai was 12, and Lakshmipati Tirtha said, I will take care of him like my own life. So it wasn't a question of Nitai not being safe. It was only 3 days. But everywhere that Nitai went, his father was always around. He couldn't bear separation. As you could imagine, if Nitai were your son, how could you bear separation? So when he heard this news, it was totally devastating to him. But he couldn't refuse. But what happened was, after these few days, it's not exactly clear, but this is what seems to have happened. It describes that Nitai went on pilgrimage through all over India. So he must have been with Lakshmipati Tirtha for a few days, and he never returned home. And it was said, before Lakshmipati Tirtha came, Nitai was always thinking how he could leave home. This is also symptomatic of great personalities. Sometimes you see them, they just want to dedicate their lives and renounce the world and renounce home and the protection and comforts of home, protection of their parents and so forth. So anyway, Nitai, he went all over India. But the interesting thing was, in his pilgrimage, is he went to Vrindavan, and he went to the places that he enacted pastimes as Lakshman also. So he's in these places where he enacted his pastimes as Lakshman and Balaram. And when he went there, he'd just start crying, feeling separation, just crying, remembering the Lilas and pastimes, and what he was feeling, what he was experiencing. That we'll probably never really understand, but he was meditating on the Lilas and feeling separation and remembering Krishna and remembering those pastimes and experiencing transcendental emotion from remembering those pastimes. And crying, and more crying. Now I want to read something for you. I want to read a little bit about the separation of Hadai Pandit, what he was feeling. It was unbearable for him, and I will just read it because it's so interesting, and we will discuss it. As soon as Lord Nityananda left home, Hadai Pandit fell senseless to the ground. Who can describe the lamentation and crying of Hadai Pandit? Listen to this. This is interesting. Take it as you want, as an analogy or as a reality, as a hyperbole or as actual. As poetry, hyperbole, or actual fact. Even wood and stone melted hearing such lamentation. Can wood and stone hear? If they could, either they can hear and they melted, or if they could, they would melt if they could hear. That's the conclusion. Hare Krishna. I think we're getting too much light here. Maybe, I don't know. Hadai became stunned due to devotional mellows, and people began to say that he had become a madman. He did not eat any grain for 3 months. He survived, however, only by the mercy of Lord Krishna. I think not eating any grain means he didn't eat anything. Oh, maybe some milk, I don't know. So now let's try to understand separation. How beautiful is Nityananda? How magnanimous is Nityananda? Well, think of someone in this world who's beautiful and magnanimous, and multiply it unlimitedly, and you still won't understand. So if you have the Supreme Personality of Godhead as your son and he's leaving, how would you feel? You would go crazy. And everybody thought, Radai Pandit has gone crazy out of this. It's like he's lost it. He's lost it. Yeah. You would lose it also. Listen on, it gets very interesting. It is natural that due to attachment, both the Lord and his servants are unable to leave each other. This is the inconceivable nature of the Lord and the Vaishnavas. Lord Kapila became indifferent and left his widowed mother, Devahuti. Sukadev Goswami left his Vaishnava father, who was none other than Vyasadeva. Without even looking back, Lord Chaitanya, the crest jewel among the sannyasis, was so detached that he left home, leaving his mother Sachi Devi alone. From the spiritual point of view, such leaving is never actual leaving. So this is good to know, so you don't spend the rest of your life crying when you hear these stories. His wife was so young, how could he leave her? This is so bad, I don't understand it. Then Ramchandra goes through so much difficulty, and then Sita comes back, and then he hears a rumor that he's accepted Sita back. He's like a henpecked husband, and he banishes her. It's like, oh, it's so painful. You hear about Radharani, is almost dying in separation from Krishna. So this, I thought of reading this just so you wouldn't have to spend the rest of your life in agony. Of course, I know your biggest agony is separation from pizza and ice cream, but someday this may actually cause you agony. But we now learn that it doesn't have to. So please listen. From the spiritual point of view, such leaving is never actual leaving. Some intelligent persons will understand this. All these pastimes are meant to deliver fallen souls. Hearing such pastimes melts even stones. Hearing such pastimes melts even stones. If even a Muslim hears such pastimes as the lamentation of Lord Ramachandra when he lost Sita, he will certainly cry. So, sometimes this example is given of stones melting. Well, what does that mean? One thing it means is our hearts are like stone, according to Bhagavatam, 2nd canto. When you're not exhibiting ecstatic symptoms, at least the stage of bhava, when you're chanting, must be you have a, steel-framed heart, stone-like heart, stone, steel, same thing. Can melt even steel. These pastimes can melt even steel-framed hearts. So that's the idea, that if we read these stories and we feel something, that's really good, because otherwise we're feeling so many things not related to Krishna, and that's not good. So if we feel something related to Krishna, if we feel some lamentation separate, oh, Lord Ramchandra banished Sita, this is so bad. And she's pregnant, and it's just like, couldn't get any worse than this. After all of that, she's banished for a year, and all the struggle he goes through, and now she's pregnant, and he banishes her. And if you can cry, it said even a Muslim girl, which means basically, it means anyone who's not connected with Vedic culture, who's not practicing Krishna consciousness, even they will cry when they hear these Leelas. And that crying will purify them, because the heart, the stone-like heart, is starting to melt. So that's one of the reasons Krishna does these Leelas, to melt our hearts. I'm going to read this again. There's one thing. All these pastimes are meant to deliver the fallen souls. That's why he does it. So we'll find. Otherwise, we're going to lament about material relationships. We're going to cry over our own spilled milk, and we're not going to cry about Krishna. So if we can cry about Krishna, we're very fortunate. You agree? That would be our great fortune. Sometimes devotees, they say, sometimes I cry in kirtan, this and that. Why? Because they served prasadam out, you didn't get any? Is that why you're crying? No, I'm just joking. So, yeah, we're all invited to Italy for pizza and ice cream. Okay, getting on the next plane. Jyotirmai says, what makes me broken heart is seeing Nityananda going around places where he was Balaram together with Krishna. I can't even imagine that. Loss, I'm getting mad by separation from my Guru Maharaj, and I have known him only a couple of years. Yeah. I cannot think of Nityananda missing Krishna. So we're going to read about we're going to read one of the most amazing things you will ever hear in your life. Well, maybe not one of the most amazing, but it's up there. We're going to read later about the meeting of Nityananda Prabhu and Lord Chaitanya at the home of Nandan Acharya. Nandan Acharya. That's proper Bengali pronunciation, in Mayapur. And what went on there was amazing. It's just like, yeah, yes. Okay. But now, I forgot to mention, when Nityananda Prabhu was traveling, he traveled until he was 20 years old. He came to Mayapur when he was 20. And he didn't come to Mayapur before that. And he wasn't preaching Krishna consciousness before that. He only started when Mahaprabhu's mission started. Mahaprabhu came to Mayapur. Mahaprabhu was in Mayapur. But Mahaprabhu's mission started to preach Krishna consciousness. That's when Nitai came. Nitai was 32 years old at that time. Mahaprabhu was 20. So that's when Nitai came. But on this pilgrimage, amongst many interesting things that happened, two stood out in my mind, at least the two things that kept me awake this morning while I was reading. Sometimes you read things, they put you to sleep, and sometimes you read things and they wake you up. Nitai in his travels went to a place called Shaila and met Lord Shiva and Parvati. And then he traveled to where Vyasadeva lives, and he met Vyasadeva. And so they had an exchange with Lord Shiva and Parvati, Mother Parvati, and also Vyasadeva. Interesting, right? Okay, now we're going to read about something ecstatic, because I know you all like ecstasy. It fills in the cracks of our miserable material existence, right? This is Nityananda meeting Madhavendra Puri. Madhavendra Puri is the root of ecstatic love of Krishna in the mood of the residents of Braj. He's the root, the first. Oh, yes. Today is Jayashree's birthday. Fantastic. You are blessed to be a devotee. May you be blessed more every day. Okay, so I'm going to read about their meeting, which is very ecstatic. Hold on, you might faint in ecstasy. Seeing Madhavendra Puri, Lord Nityananda at once fell unconscious to the ground, stunned in ecstatic prema. Seeing Lord Nityananda, Madhavendra Puri forgot himself as well and fell unconscious. It's all your fault. Just by seeing you, I fell unconscious. How dare you? They both fell unconscious. Why? The emotion that is aroused from in the heart of someone who has Krishna when they see another person who has Krishna, it's overwhelming. And whenever you read that a devotee fell unconscious, it means the emotion of love, they couldn't handle it. So they just collapsed. Your consciousness shut off. It was too intense to handle. Sri Gaurachandra had repeatedly said that Sri Madhavendra Puri is the original root of worship in ecstatic love. After both Lord Nityananda and Madhavendra Puri swooned, the disciples headed by Ishwara Puri all began to cry. Ishwara Puri is Lord Chaitanya's spiritual master. Madhavendra Puri is Lord Chaitanya's grand spiritual master. So, the devotees are looking at this, and what are they doing? They're crying. So they're being affected by this emotion also, obviously. Recovering after some time, Lord Nityananda and Madhavendra Puri embraced each other and cried. Overwhelmed by ecstatic love for Krishna, they rolled on the ground, rolled on the sand and cried loudly. Okay, try to visualize what's going on. They see one another, they fall unconscious. All the devotees are looking at this, crying. They regain consciousness. And then they start crying, fall over, and roll on the ground. And this crying is not coming from any kind of unhappiness. This is happy crying. No, I missed one point. So they recovered, embraced one another, started crying, and rolled on the sand, crying loudly. Tears of love flowing from their eyes like rains soaked Mother Earth, making her feel gratified. So, sometimes you hear like tears shooting out like syringes, and here we hear tears soaking the ground. It's not a metaphor. It's actually what happened. They were crying so profusely, the ground. Could you imagine that? I've never seen. Have you? You're crying so much, there's puddles on the ground below. All that happened when Krishna was crying, when his mother Yasoda was chastising. So this is actually what happened. Don't think it's just a the word, metaphor. It was like it wasn't like puddles of ground. It wasn't like their crying was like puddles. It wasn't like it. It wasn't a simile. It was actually what happened. Mm. It's like rain. Okay, like rain. So it soaked. They were crying like rain, shivering, shedding tears, hair standing on end, and other ecstatic symptoms appeared endlessly on their bodies. This was because Lord Krishna personally resides in their bodies. Lord Nityananda said, "All the pilgrimage I've done till now has now borne fruit. Today I have seen the lotus feet of Madhavendra Puri. Seeing his ecstatic love of God, my life has become successful." Sri Madhavendra Puri embraced Lord Nityananda and was unable to reply, as his throat choked with love. Madhavendra Puri was so pleased that he was unable to release Lord Nityananda from his embrace. I mean, think about it. If you were embracing Lord Nityananda, would you be able to let him go? Ishwara Puri, Brahmananda Puri, and all the other devotees of Madhavendra Puri felt intense attachment for Lord Nityananda. They had met many sadhus, but never before seen such symptoms of prema. Now meeting Lord Nityananda relieved their distress. It said they had met many materialistic people that caused them distress. But now meeting Nityananda, it relieved their distress and aroused their Krishna prema. Yeah, so they travel together a little bit. So there's a verse. I'll read a verse. Madhavendra Puri said, this is Madhavendra Puri, "I have never seen such ecstatic love. Wherever there's such prema is my favorite holy place. I know Krishna has given me his mercy, since he's given me such a friend as Nityananda. Wherever one finds Nityananda's company is the most sacred and transcendental place. That devotee who hears the name of Nityananda will certainly attain the lotus feet of Krishna Chandra. If one has the slightest envy for Nityananda, Krishna never favors him, even if he's a devotee." Nityananda, Nityananda, Nityananda. What did we just read? That devotee who hears the name of Nityananda will certainly attain the lotus feet of Krishna Chandra. Nityananda! Nityananda! I have to take that name in. Now, when I was reading this, I was thinking of something. It said here that if one has even the slightest bit of envy for Nityananda, he's not going to get love of Krishna. And I think this is significant because sometimes a devotee will make offenses and still they're going on with their devotional service. But you can't get love of Krishna if you're making offenses. You can go on with your devotional service, but until you stop making offenses, you're just going to go on with your devotional service. And it's not going to be pleasing. Your service is not going to be pleasing to Krishna because you're offending a devotee. You'll never be able to shoot Hanam if you're offending a devotee. And so as long as you're offending a devotee, even though you're doing devotional service, you're not going to get the fruit of love of God. So sometimes you see a devotee and you might think, this devotee seems to be offending other devotees. But at the same time, he seems to be a good devotee. He's up every morning and he's chanting his rounds. But Krishna's not pleased with that, and he's not going to get, until he stops offending, until he apologizes for his offenses, he's not going to get love of Krishna. It's not going to work. So it may appear, that everything is going on, but internally it's not going on. That's the meaning of this. Krishna never favors him, even if he's a devotee. So it's like saying he's offending Nityananda and he's a devotee. What does that mean? He's engaged in devotional service, and his engagement is not pleasing Krishna because he's offending a devotee. Yes, it's a good point. So we have some comments. Krishna says, I heard it's not good to be too sentimental, but it is okay that one feels deep love for or sadness for Krishna and Prabhupada, or reading Lilas or about Prabhupada. Well, depends what you mean by sentimental. If your dog dies and, you stop chanting your rounds, yeah, that would be a bit too sentimental. Like we have the story of Bharat Maharaj, and this deer had just given birth, but it was running away from a hunter. So this, what do you call that? Fawn? Is it called a fawn? It was just there. And, so Bharat Maharaj took care, and he became very attached. That's being sentimental. If you become attached to something that becomes an impediment to your bhakti, that's sentimental. Otherwise, being sentimental for Krishna, that sounds like perfection to me. The word sentimental in and of itself is not a bad word. I think this word in ISKCON, sentimental, is like, oh, you said, oh, I've got the disease. Prabhu, did you get COVID? No, I got sentimentalism. Ooh, really? I'm like, I better distance myself from you. You're a sentimentalist. Sentimentalist means you have all these crazy feelings which are not, we'll just say, not bona fide. And you don't understand bhakti. You think you have love, but it's just love. But really you love ice cream more than you love Krishna. And things of that nature. That's sentimentalism. But to be sentimental in and of itself is not bad. But to think that I have love of Krishna when I don't, and to think I have bhakti when I don't even understand what bhakti is or how to execute it, that's being sentimental. Or if my puppy dies and I'm like, I can't chant my rounds for a month. Yeah. So, like that. So being sentimental is not bad. It's good if it's for Krishna. Right? So Jiva says, I heard a class by Rukmini Mataji that once Prabhupada took darshan at a temple she was staying in, and tears shot from his eyes and wet the devotees on the other side of the room. Oh my God. Not drenched, but they were splashed a bit. I've heard another story that the devotee saw Prabhupada crying. It was like that. Vrindavan Leela says, but who could not love a fawn? It's an interesting story, and I don't know if everybody understands it. We say that Bharat Maharaj fell down. Fall down is I don't think it's a word, actually, fall down. I think it's two words. You fall down and you put them together, then you fall down. But we use it as a word. We use it as a noun. That was a fall down. I don't know. Maybe someone can tell me. Is the word fall down a word? And if so, is it a noun? If it's a word, it must be a noun. He had a fall down. So when you have a fall down, it would refer to an initiated devotee or someone living in a temple who has made a promise to chant 16 rounds and follow the 4 principles, and you're not chanting 16 rounds. Although generally we wouldn't consider that a fall down. But if you are not observing the 4 principles and you were observing them, then we would consider that you fell down. You fell down from the principle. Right? So now, Bharat Maharaj didn't actually fall down per se. He didn't commit any sin. He didn't break, there's nothing describing that he broke principles. What it's described is he stopped following principles. So it wasn't a fall down per se. I mean, you could call it a fall down. He fell. It was more of a fall away than a fall down. He kind of fell sideways, not down. He was very busy with the fawn, and that kind of became his sadhana to take care of the fawn, and he became attached to it. And he I don't know the details of why and how it happened, but gradually because of his attachment to the fawn and what it took to take care of her, he stopped his sadhana. He stopped his process. And then he was looking for the fawn. The fawn had gone away. He was looking for the fawn. And then while he was looking for the fawn, he died. I forget exactly what happened. He died, and he became a fawn in his next life. So that story is just a warning. All right, you may have a dog, a cat, whatever, but if you're so attached that they take you away from your devotional service, and you're so attached that you would think of them at the time of death, then you're in troubled water at that point. That's the point. So, should we take care of animals? Grihastas should feed animals. That's our job. We should take care of all living entities. But taking care and becoming attached in a way that's bad for your bhakti are two different things. Right? Right? It's like a brahmachari may be polite and kind to a woman. And if a woman in the temple hurts herself, he may run, get a Band-Aid, and so forth, and help her, which he should do. It doesn't mean he's madly in love with her or anything. But if he's madly in love with her, then that could cause him to fall down, stop chanting, and so forth. So it's something like that, right? So you understand. Fall down is a word according to the dictionary. Oh, wow. Because I was wondering, because Microsoft, whenever I write fall down, it tells me it's not a word. In fact, I'm going to write it now. Fall down. Yep, there's a red line under it, which made me think that even Microsoft. Well, Nadia, you better call up Microsoft and tell them it's actually a word, because they don't know that. They think it's not a word. All right, so fall down is a word. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, you can have a fall down. It's bona fide. Well, it's bona fide English. Anyway. It's not bona fide to have a fall down, but bona fide English. Okay, so, there's this conversation which I quote often, which I think is so, it's just perfect in understanding attachment and detachment. It's when a devotee asked Prabhupada about attachment to children. And Prabhupada first said, it's natural. There's something wrong with you if you're not attached to your children. If you're not attached to your children, how will you take care of them? You may neglect them. But then Prabhupada explained, but in Krishna consciousness, attachment to children takes a different form than attachment to children would take if you weren't a devotee. It's not that you're attached so you enjoy, but you're attached and you want to help them become Krishna conscious. So that's how you express your attachment. Right? So as long as your attachment fosters your Krishna consciousness, or as long as your attachment is not so strong that it gets in the way of your Krishna consciousness, then you're okay. The danger is when your attachment becomes a problem for your bhakti, right? Like Prabhupada says, there's a purport. It's an interesting purport in Bhagavatam because there's so many purports about how grihastha life is like not so great. I'll just put it mildly, right? We've all read those purports. But Prabhupada's really talking about materialistic grihastha life. And in this purport, Prabhupada was talking about grihastha life, and he said, but if a devotee, man and woman, if they get married, and the center of their attachment is Krishna, then everything is nice. So does the connection enhance the attachment to Krishna? That's the point. So if you're attached to something which is causing you to lose your Krishna consciousness, that attachment is not good. If you're attached to something, it's helping you, or you can be attached to something in a way that it helps you. That's good. No problem. Don't believe in Microsoft. It's a conspiracy. They don't know many words. Oh, okay. Don't believe in Microsoft. Yeah. Not it's a conspiracy. Just don't believe. Yeah. What does Microsoft know? They don't even know how to fall down. So why would, you have to ask a devotee. Devotees know how to fall down. Anyway, sometimes I think that in speaking together, we have words which describe something. And I thought fall down was actually an internal word created by devotees just so we could communicate because we know what we're talking about. But sometimes devotees have words which are not words, like the word bloop is not a word, and not least the way we use it. Bloop. Okay. Look up the word bloop. When someone leaves Krishna consciousness, they're said to have blooped. Bloop. Okay. There is a word bloop, but it's not what we think it means. An ultra low frequency underwater sound detected by the U.S. This is interesting. Boom, bloop, bloop, bloop. Prabhupada said something like that when he said something like a devotee leaves, it's like the soul falls, it makes a sound like bloop, like this sound, bloop, like low water frequency. And so Brahmananda started using that word. When some devotee would leave, he'd said, "Oh, devotee blooped." That is, that's a total internal word, ISKCON word, the way we describe somebody left. But you can't go up to someone on the street and say, do you know so-and-so? They blooped. They're like, blooped? What's blooped mean? So when Brahmananda told Prabhupada that so-and-so blooped, Prabhupada said, "What is this bloop? What is this bloop?" I don't know how Prabhupada said it. What is this bloop? And he said, Prabhupada went away. And Prabhupada said, then if he blooped, what can be done? So then Prabhupada started using the word, as if he thought it was an English word that he didn't know. So that's the origin of the word bloop. When you become as competent a writer as Shakespeare, you can make up your own words. But sometimes making up words for ourselves, maybe. I think the problem is if we make them up for ourselves, and we think they're normal words, and then we run into a problem. We use them and people don't understand what we're saying. Yeah. Okay. Now, I'm skipping around to highlights of what I read. And I hope I don't miss anything. Yes. This is the meeting of Lord Chaitanya. This is the highlight, actually. What I really wanted to discuss. This is so... It's just to relish it and hear it is so nice. Blupedo. It's an ISKCON but Spanish word. Blupedo. How about blupo? Blupiedo? What happened to so-and-so? Blupiedo, Prabhu. Oh, Prabhu, Blupiedo. So, lo siento, Blupiedo. That's Mexican Spanish. To be thrown out of what? Bloop also means to be thrown out of what? SMTH? Anyway, it's a perfectly good word. He blooped. Okay, I'm going to read. The topics of Madhya Kanda are just like nectar. This is the Madhya Kanda of this book. Madhya means middle. Hearing them destroys one's atheistic mentality. Please behold the beautiful Lord Nityananda. To your eyes, full satisfaction. He is personified love and affection for Lord Gauranga. Typo, no apostrophe after the E before the S of eyes. Want my money back. Speaking in a faltering voice and unable to walk properly, Lord Nityananda resided in Vrindavan. Meanwhile, Sri Gaurachandra revealed himself in Navadvip. Lord Gauranga constantly did Sankirtan in great ecstasy. Sankirtan. He felt distressed, however, not seeing Lord Nityananda. Lord Nityananda could understand the manifestation of Lord Gaurachandra. He lived in Vrindavan waiting for this auspicious moment. So just describe that. Now that he knows, there's the story if you want to read it. Gaura Prabhu put it up. Told by Achyuta Ananda. Let's read it so I get the details right, because I missed some details. One day I was in the store with Brahmananda, and another fellow who had been at the temple said, I don't like this and that. This is all nonsense. He walked out, slammed the door. I said to Brahmananda, he fell back into... wait. He fell back into the ocean of material illusion. Brahmananda then made the sound, bloop. That is how bloop was created, and it became like you fall into the ocean. Okay, that's like a rock falling in. Bloop. And our word, and it became our word when someone was leaving the temple. Look at that guy. I think he's going to bloop. Boy, I hope I don't bloop. Where's so-and-so? Oh, he blooped. So we were up in Prabhupada's room, and Prabhupada asked, where is that boy Michael? Brahmananda said, oh, he blooped. Bloop? What is this bloop? We all looked at Brahmananda as if to say, you tell him you made it up. He said, well, he's speaking to Prabhupada, you've been explaining that we fall back into the ocean of Maya like a stone makes the sound when it hits the water. Bloop. We've been saying that when somebody leaves, they bloop. Prabhupada responded, well, if he blooped, what can we do? He immediately picked up on it, and that is how blooped got invented. Gauradas, you want to write a book of all the words we use in ISKCON and their origins? Because a lot of devotees don't know, like when we say spaced out, where that came from. Or I'm freaking out. My round's done, I'm freaking out. Nobody, they weren't living in the 60s or close to it. You don't know where those words come from. Spaced out, freaked out, burnt to the max. I'm fried, toasted, kind of like the origin, like a burnt out Sankirtan devotee. Freak out is what happens when you have a bad LSD trip. Spaced out is what happens when you take too much LSD. It also happens on LSD. You're not present on this dimension anymore. You're off somewhere, like kind of incoherent. Spaced out. But freaked out is a bad LSD trip. Spaced out is just normally what happens. So these are LSD words. In case you didn't know, that's what you're using. But since the origins of the Hare Krishna movement came from the hippie culture, I think those words are used commonly now, right? Yeah, maybe amongst non-devotees, yeah. So, the history of words in ISKCON. We want to write this book, The Krishna Factor. That's a Gunagraya Maharaj word. Krishna's intervening. Okay. So now as I said earlier, Nityananda did not preach, and he's waiting for Mahaprabhu, and now Nityananda Mahaprabhu is going to enact his Lila of spreading Harinam Sankirtan, and Nityananda knows, gets the telepathic message. No, he doesn't need telepathy. He's eternally telepathic with Gauranga. Let me read this again. We lost. Please behold the beautiful Lord Nityananda to your eyes' full satisfaction. What are we reading here? Is this? Oh, I think what we're reading from is. I'm not sure. I'll read again. The topics of Madhyakanda are just like nectar. Hearing them destroys one's atheistic mentality. Please behold the beautiful Lord Nityananda to your eyes' satisfaction. He is personified love and affection for Lord Gauranga. Lord Nityananda's limbs are filled with transcendental mellows for Lord Gauranga. Speaking in a faltering voice and unable to walk properly, Lord Nityananda resided in Vrindavan. So it's just a glorification. And then we just read that he understands it's time to enact the Sankirtan Lila. Understanding that the Lord had revealed himself, Lord Nityananda immediately went to Navadvip and stayed at the house of Nandan Acharya. So he leaves Vrindavan knowing it's time to enact these Leelas. And instead of meeting Mahaprabhu, create some suspense and some separation. Separation is kind of a theme of the Leela. So he goes to the house of Nandan Acharya, and we'll read about Nandan Acharya for a moment. Nandan Acharya was a Mahabhagavata, a pure devotee of the Lord. He saw Lord Nityananda as effulgent as the sun. Lord Nityananda was dressed as an avadut, or mendicant. He possessed an attractive body. He was always in deep, sober mood. He possessed an attractive body. He was always in a deep, sober mood. Lord Nityananda chanted the holy names of Krishna day and night. He was the abode of Lord Chaitanya's mercy within the three worlds. He often shouted loudly out of his own ecstasy, maddened with love of God. He was an incarnation of Lord Balaram. The enchanting beauty of his face defeated millions of moons. His sweet smile enlivened all the people of the world. His beautiful, brilliant teeth were like pearls, and his two broad lotus eyes, increased the beauty of his face. His hands stretched to his knees, and his chest was very wide. His lotus feet were expert in walking. Lord Nityananda spoke with everyone with burning compassion. Wow. He spoke to everyone with burning compassion. What does that mean? That means the nature of a devotee is their heart burns to see other people suffer. That's compassion is a kind of burning. Chorus saying the word I'm fried. I'm fried is not, I'm not fried from compassion. Hopefully you can become fried with compassion. But, so it's heart's burning with just pain. Heart's pain to see the suffering. Wow. Where did I leave off? Can't find it. Yes. Hearing the words from his lotus mouth completely destroyed one's bondage to fruitive activities. As Lord Nityananda arrived in Nadia, all the residents began to chant, "Joy, joy, Well, they actually began to chant joy, joy, because they're Bengalis. Who is so expert to describe his glories? It is Lord Nityananda who broke the sannyas danda of Lord Gaurachandra. It is he who enlivened all the fallen, foolish traders of Bengal. Not traders. Traders, business people. Traders, not traitors. Trader sounds the same. If anyone even chants his holy name, he will certainly be purified. Seeing Lord Nityananda, Nandanacharya became very happy. He offered him lunch and kept him in his house. Whoever hears about Lord Nityananda's arrival at Navadvip will certainly obtain the treasure of love and devotion. So this was also another impetus to read this, to get this blessing. Whoever hears about Lord Nityananda's arrival at Navadvip will certainly obtain the treasure of love and devotion. I don't know when that treasure is going to arrive at your house, but it's on its way. Just stay. Don't go anywhere. Fried with compassion. It's called compassion fatigue, like nurses or doctors, when they don't take care of themselves, but constantly, yeah. Well, then the conclusion is if you're burning with compassion, you won't fry with compassion. But if you're not burning with compassion, you will fry. Because you're burning with compassion, all you want to do is, like Lord Nityananda with Jaga and Madha, he didn't burn out with them. Because he was burning with compassion, he didn't get fried with them. They got a bit upset with him. Yeah. Okay. So here's the blessing. We're going to get the treasure of love and devotion. It's just being sent right now. Let's see when it arrives. Aware of Lord Nityananda's arrival in Navadvip, Sri Vishrambar became extremely happy. So he told Srivas and Haridas, he knew where he was, but it was just part of a Leela. He said, go find them. They went out for 9 hours searching in Mayapur, and they couldn't find him. So then the next day, Lord Chaitanya said, come with me, I know where he is. So this is what Lord Chaitanya said. Today, this is before he told them to go. Today I had a wonderful dream. I saw a beautiful chariot with a flag on top that came and stopped near my door. Within that chariot, there was a remarkable personality. He carried a large pillar on his shoulder and appeared restless. He had a stick tucked into his clothes and carried a pitcher in his left hand. He dressed in blue garments with a blue chadar on his chest. A wonderful earring hung on his left ear. By his features, I assume he is none other than Haladar Balaram. He repeatedly asked, is this the house of Nimai Pandit? Lord Chaitanya continued, I have never seen such a noble and powerful personality. He was effulgent and dressed like an avaduta. I was severely stunned by seeing him. I asked him, who are you? He smilingly replied, I'm your brother. We will meet and know each other tomorrow. I don't know if you know this incident, part of this story. Hearing his words, my happiness increased. I considered myself as similar to that personality. Speaking like this, Lord Chaitanya fell into ecstatic trance and began to roar loudly in the mood of Haladar Balaram. The Lord demanded, bring wine! His loud voice almost shattered the ears of everyone present. Then Srivas Pandit said, please listen, O Goshai. The wine that you are asking for is right here in front of you. Only those you give it to can relish it. In other words, the holy name. So it says, like Lord Chaitanya, it doesn't just do like things ordinary, just like Nityananda's coming and, okay, let's go meet him. No, it's like dreams and different emotions. And, now he's in the mood of Haladar, Balaram. All the devotees remained shivering at a distance. They all thought there must be some reason behind this. The lotus-eyed Lord loudly talked aimlessly. He smiled and moved his body to and fro in the mood of Sankarshan. After a short while, the Lord returned to his normal condition. Explaining the meaning of his dream, he became absorbed in the mood of Balaram. And then he said, I have a feeling in my heart that some holy personality has arrived in Navadvip. I already told you that we would meet him soon. Oh, Haridas, Srivas, go find him. So now he orders them, and then they can't find him. So why did he order the search? There's a reason, and you're going to find out. Why did he order them to search if he knew they weren't going to find him? By the pretext of ordering the search, he showed that Nityananda is most confidential. In other words, you just can't find him. Some people glorify Lord Gaurachandra, but as soon as they hear the name of Nityananda, they get up and leave. Just like if one worships Govinda but does not respect Lord Shiva. For that offense, he will surely go to the abode of Yamaraj. So you worship. That was, I think, one of the thing. Wasn't Krishnadas Kaviraj said his brother accepted Krishna, but not Lord Chaitanya, and then I think some of the sons of Advaita, some accepted Lord Chaitanya, but not Nityananda. Not good. This incarnation of Lord Nityananda is most confidential. Without the inspiration of Lord Chaitanya, no one can even see him. If anyone criticizes Lord Nityananda's unfathomable, I can't speak English anymore, unfathomable qualities, though he possesses devotion to Lord Krishna, such devotion will be checked. So that's the same point that was made before. You possess devotion to Krishna, but if you criticize Nityananda Prabhu, your devotion is just, it's not going anywhere. It looks like devotion, but it's not going anywhere. So Girda says, what if one is more attached to Lord Nityananda, but not to Lord Chaitanya? Should that attachment lead to love for Lord Chaitanya? What if it's still not developing? Well, there's a tattva here also of understanding the position of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda. So first you have to understand who Lord Chaitanya is. And we approached Lord Nityananda to get Lord Chaitanya's mercy. And of course, Lord Chaitanya's mercy comes through Lord Nityananda. So I don't think it's proper to not be attached to both, but if you're more attached to Nityananda because he's more merciful, that's fine. But not to be attached to Lord Chaitanya doesn't make sense, because it's his compassion that Nityananda is representing. So it's like one. It's like you can't, in theory, you can't be attached to one without the other, because Nityananda is just, everything for Nityananda is Lord Chaitanya. And if you are actually attached to Lord Nityananda, because he's attached to Krishna, you have to be, he's attached to Mahaprabhu, you have to be attached to Mahaprabhu, because he is. So if you're, you love me, love my dog. So our philosophy is we teach Krishna Bhakti, but when Nityananda would go out, he didn't teach Krishna Bhakti. He taught Gaura Bhakti. He didn't say chant Krishna, he said chant Gaura. Right? Hear from Gaura. Hear about Gaura. Serve Gaura. That's what he preached, because for him everything was Lord Chaitanya. Right? You can say Bolo Krishna, Bhaja Krishna, Koro Krishna. What is Bolo Gora? Bhaja Gora, Koro Gora. That was Siksha. That was Nityananda. So to be attached to Nityananda, to be more attached, more merciful, why not? But understand that he's attached to Gauranga. All the mercy is coming from Gauranga. So, yeah. Okay. So, Lord Chaitanya said, "Come with me, let's go see him." On the way, Lord Chaitanya called Murari. "Murari, have you not seen Avaduta Nityananda?" Saying this, he began to smile. "He's now staying at Nandan Acharya's house. Come with me. We're going there. I'm telling you the truth." While walking, the Lord repeatedly chanted, "Hari, Hari." His whole body shivered, and his voice choked. 5 or 7 lines of tears flowed from his eyes. The lustrous golden Lord was unable to walk. Wow. It's hard to imagine, right? Sometimes he leaped up to 5 steps ahead like a powerful lion, and sometimes looked behind like a mad elephant. Out of ecstasy, the Lord would make a loud noise again and again, which was as grave as the noise of the cloud. In this way, Sri Gaurachandra, along with his associates, finally reached the house of Nandan Acharya. Okay, get ready for some ecstasy. Everyone saw a jewel-like personality sitting in the house of Nandan Acharya. His effulgence was equal to that of millions of suns. He was sitting in his own mood, deeply absorbed in ecstatic meditation. He was smiling all the time. Wouldn't you like to be there? Wouldn't you like to be with Lord Chaitanya when this happened? I mean, what would you pay? What would you pay to be part of this Leela? What would you be willing to do to be part of this Leela? A friend of mine wrote a song, and he said, "You can get all the wealth in the world for the price of sitting down." So, for the price of this wealth, all you have to do is sit down, Hare Krishna, no offense. And maybe someday, I mean, I don't know about you. I actually lived for a period of time. Maybe it was 6, 8 months or so, or a year. I can't remember. I lived in Mayapur in an apartment that was probably 50 yards, 40 yards from Nandan Acharya's house. And I would walk by the backyard of his house every morning on the way to the temple. And I was reading somewhere, I can't remember, maybe, where was I reading? Maybe Chaitanya Bhagavat somewhere. And it said, or Navadvitam Mahatmya probably, it said, if you have eyes to see, then when you look at Nandan Acharya's house, you will see palaces made of jewels. Or you will, not palaces, you'll see a palace made of jewels. And you'll see so many things. And you know what India's like, unpainted, the garden is unkept, the building's not so well painted and so forth. So that's what I was seeing. And so, every day I walk by and I don't see the jewel palaces. I'm like, dang, when am I going to see the jewel palaces, Maybe tomorrow. Today I'll chant better rounds. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. When am I going to see it? I want to see it. And then often I would go there. And even now, after I moved, sometimes When we walk, our morning walks, we end up there, so we go in. Occasionally we go in. And I think about this Leela, and I think, I want to be there. I want to see it when. So I think it's nice when you read the Lilas to meditate like, I'd like to be there. And Krishna is very kind. He may let you be there. But anyway, let's read about it and develop our desire to be there. Yeah. Lord Chaitanya was 7 feet. I don't know how much 2.5 meters is. No, it's more than 2.5 meters. 2.5 meters is not tall. Or is it? No, he was 3.5 meters, or over 3 meters. No, he was 7 feet tall. Yeah. Was Nityananda as tall and beautiful? Of course. How we attain compassion for others in our imperfect stage. Most people thinking about himself and take care of him. Stop thinking about yourself. Take care of others. And if you don't feel like to not think about yourself and take care of others, all the more reason to stop thinking about yourself and take care of others, because your compassion will develop when you take care of others. Okay. Aware that Lord Nityananda was in a deep trance of pure devotion, Lord Vishwambar and his devotees offered obeisances. Everyone stood aside with awe and reverence. No one said a word. They simply stared at him. Then Mahaprabhu Vishwambar came before Lord Nityananda, who had once understood his beloved and worshipful Lord was present. Worshipful and worshipable. The form of Vishwambar was as beautiful as that of a Cupid. He wore an attractive dress and a flower garland. Sandalwood paste was smeared on his forehead. The luster of gold appeared most insignificant before the body of the Lord. Even the moon god hankers to see his enchanting face. The Lord's teeth resembled a set of pearls, and seeing his attractive hair, one becomes unconscious. Oh my God. What happened to you, Prabhu? Oh, I saw Lord Chaitanya's hair and I fell over unconscious. That's beautiful hair. What does that look like? Can we even imagine? Seeing his two broad pink eyes, one wonders, are there any more lotus flowers? What does that mean? Are there any more lotus flowers? Like, his eyes are so much more beautiful than a lotus flower. Like, lotus flowers are not lotus flowers anymore. His two long hands stretched down to his knees. A fine, thin Brahman thread beautified his broad chest. His forehead was wonderfully decorated with marks of tilak, and his body looked enchanting even without any ornaments. His fingernails defeat the beauty of millions of jewels. His attractive smile is nectar. Lord Vishwambar stood in front of Lord Nityananda, who had once recognized the Lord of his heart. So just imagine. They walk in. It looks like, as far as I can tell, he sat down in front of Lord Nityananda. Whoa. Fireworks are going to start happening. Lord Nityananda, out of joy, was stunned. He stared at Lord Vishwambar without blinking his eyes. He desired to lick Vishwambar with his tongue and drink his beauty through his eyes. Nityananda desired to embrace Vishwambar with his hands and smell him with his nose. Lord Nityananda simply became stunned. In other words, every one of his senses wanted to engage. That was there in the Bhagavatam when Narada Muni saw Krishna. Same thing. It's just all his senses wanted to engage. Everyone was so astonished, just serve with all my senses. Everyone was so astonished that he did not speak or move. He was just staring at Lord Chaitanya. Lord Gauranga, the life and soul of everyone, beheld the situation and began to invent ways to reveal Lord Nityananda. With the gesture, the Lord instructed Srivas to recite a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam. Understanding the Lord's intention, Srivas at once recited a verse, and the verse is, wearing a peacock feather, upon his head, blue karnikara flowers on his ears, a yellow garment as brilliant as gold, and the Vijayanti garland, Lord Krishna exhibited his transcendental form as the greatest of dancers as he entered the forest of Vrindavan, beautifying it with the marks of his footprints. He filled the holes of his flute with the nectar of his lips, and the cowherd boys sang his glories. The Lord Balaram's cowherd boy. So that's the right verse. Hearing this verse, Nityananda fell to the ground unconscious. Out of great ecstasy, Lord Nityananda remained inert as Lord Gauranga told Srinivas to continue. Awakening after a short while, Lord Nityananda began to cry. Repeatedly hearing the verses from Srimad Bhagavatam, Lord Nityananda became maddened. He roared like a lion, and the sound shook the universe. He jumped in the air so forcefully that everyone thought all his bones would break to pieces. We went to Ekachakra. I forget when it was. Maybe it was the last time I was in India. And then we read Chaitanya Charitamrita, and we had devotees play out the pastime so we could actually see them. And there was one kirtan lila where maybe it was Haridas Thakur. He would jump in the air and he would fall to the ground. So we had devotees were jumping in the air and crashing on the ground. What to speak of others? Even the Vaishnavas became afraid. They all prayed, "Oh Krishna, please save him. Oh Krishna, please save him." Lord Nityananda rolled on the ground and his whole body became wet with tears. Why would he break his bones? Because he jumped so high, coming down. That's what they were afraid of. Sometimes he would laugh loudly, and sometimes he felt great happiness within his heart. Sometimes he danced. Sometimes he clapped his hands, and sometimes he jumped forcefully. Oh, we have to speed up here. I don't want to compromise and not read all of this because it's so nice. There was one other amazing story also. Maybe Monday we'll read the other amazing story. Okay. A golden effulgence shone from the beautiful body of Lord Nityananda. Brightly shining ornaments decorated his charming bodily limbs. Yellow cloth adorned his waist. And he wore a turban decorated with champaka flowers. Tinkling ankle bells sounded as he walked. Tears filled his deer-like eyes. His enchanting smile appeared as if lightning had fallen down on earth. His captivating smile disturbed the chastity of women. His grave voice resembled the sound of a cloud. One of the qualities of a devotee is poetic, as you could notice. Vrindavan Das Thakur is quite poetic. His roaring sound subdued the mad elephant. Okay. Overflooded with love, Lord Nityananda's body showed symptoms of ecstatic love. Shivering, standing of hairs on end, perspiration. He held a golden stick in his hand as he defeated the pride of Kali. His lotus-like palms were simply wonderful, decorated with armlets, banklets, necklace, bracelets, earrings, this and that, blah. Okay. Sometimes he stood up saying, "Please hold me." Then he would ask everyone, "Where is that cowherd boy? Kanai?" Sometimes he uttered strange words, and sometimes he cried or laughed. Sometimes he asked for honey, and sometimes he praised his consort Revati. So he's totally in the mood of Balaram. Sometimes he hopped. Sometimes he said one thing. The next moment, something else. No one could understand what he said. The fragrance of his bodily limbs caused all the young girls and the married women to leave their homes without hesitating. Lord Nityananda fell on the ground to offer obeisances to Lord Vishwambar and humbly offered prayers with sweet words. Lord Nityananda fell at his lotus feet. Both of them tried to catch hold of each other's feet. And this you also find when they were doing kirtan at Srivasanga, the devotees were like all trying to catch one another's feet, take the dust. They're not like, we do that, but we're not that humble. But they're actually doing it out of humility. Lord Chaitanya looked at Nityananda Prabhu's smiling face and said, "Where were you? I have searched the entire world, but could not get any. But I have searched the entire world, but I have searched the entire world, but I could not get any news of you. Finally, I heard that the son of Nanda Maharaj is living at Navadvip in Gaudadesh, hiding his real identity. I've come here to catch this thief. Today I've caught you. How will you escape?" This was Nityananda speaking to Lord Chaitanya. I have searched the entire world. Now I've found you. You thief, I've caught you. How will you escape? Saying this, Nityananda began to laugh, cry, and dance. Gauranga also danced, seeing Lord Nityananda's ecstatic madness. Gaurachandra cried along with all the Vaishnavas. The happiness of Nityananda increased without limit. Although everyone tried to pacify him, they were unable. When all the devotees failed to calm him, Vishwambar personally embraced him. As soon as Vishwambar embraced him, Lord Nityananda surrendered his life to Lord Vishwambar, and became still. Nityananda offered his life to him, to whom it belongs, and remained inert on the lap of Lord Chaitanya. Inert on the lap of Lord Chaitanya. Lord Nityananda floated in the water of Chaitanya's love, just as Lakshman lay on the lap of Ramchandra, being hit by the Shakti weapon of Ravana. Lord Nityananda swooned, pierced by the arrows of love and devotion. Gaurachandra cried with Nityananda on his lap. Both lords felt an indescribable happiness. Their love and affection for each other is like that of Sri Ram and Lakshman. There is no other example of the affection seen between Gaurachandra and Nityananda except this. I'll just read a little more, and then we'll end class. After a while, Nityananda After a while, Lord Nityananda revived. All the devotees began to chant, Hari, Hari. Seeing Lord Nityananda on the lap of Vishwambar, Gadadhar smiled and thought, this is contradictory. Lord Ananta always carries Vishwambar on his lap. Today his pride has been smashed in the lap of the Lord. Gadadhar Pandit knows the influence of Lord Nityananda, and Nityananda knows the heart of Gadadhar. So I think we'll end here to leave you in suspense, and I think we'll continue on Monday. We'll continue often after festivals. We go up to 5 days. It just depends on the mood, but I think it's nice. One day is not enough to fully appreciate Lord Nityananda. Right, so we'll read your comments, and then Marco says, it is amazing to think that the wonderful Gaur Nitai were personally present on this planet just 500 years ago. We are really lucky, yeah. It's amazing to think that I lived 50 yards from where this Leela happened. Isn't it? It's amazing that we can even talk about this Leela. Yes, it was super when we were in Ekachakra. Yeah, we went to Ekachakra. And, we had these dramas and lots of kirtans. And if you get Nitai's mercy, you're very fortunate. I would pray for it. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So rather than disappoint you, we will continue. Hare Krishna. And some of you we will see in an hour and a half for japa. And after japa, we recitate, not we recite 6 shlokas of Bhagavad Gita, and that way, I think in 6 months we will have chanted the whole Gita. Pretty nice, huh? Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.